All right. Well, welcome to an episode of Beyond ERP. Today, we're privileged to have Ryan Akervik, Finance Director at Central Valley Health District. Riley is a servant leader dedicated to fostering a passionate and purposeful workplace culture. With a strong focus on employee well-being, Riley aims to enhance organizational productivity by ensuring that employees' needs and development are prioritized in all business activities. Riley's leadership style is empathetic and strategic and is known for navigating challenging circumstances with a keen eye for identifying opportunities and implementing effective solutions. Riley serves as the financial director at Central Valley Health District, a position that he's had since November 2021. Riley has successfully managed financial operations, driving the organization towards their goals while maintaining a healthy, supportive work environment. Riley, we're really happy you're joining us today. Thank you. I know I was stumbled a couple times with that spoonful of your tea out there, but really excited to have you. I'm Louis Balla, host of our podcast here, joined by Gina Ostrowski. Gina, why don't we dive in and ask
Yeah.
some hard-hitting questions?
All right. Welcome, Riley. Glad to join. You're joining us today, and let's just jump into this conversation. So, maybe you could share just to start off a few key lessons that you've learned from your ERP implementation process with NetSuite, or even any in the past that you've had.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me.
Of course.
And kind of thinking about this, a few key lessons that we had throughout the process of making throughout our ERP implementation process over to NetSuite was we were previously on Great Plains, which is an older software. The reporting process was very painful, something that we really did not enjoy. It took a lot of time for myself and my staff to pull reports out of the system to do general journal entries even. So that was really the big reason for our jump. But I would say kind of some key lessons that I learned along the way were to not be afraid to just dive in and really be a sponge to learn about the software. I think right away I was so worried about we have to make sure the chart of accounts are correct. We have to make sure that like everybody can have access. I was just so worried about things that I didn't need to be worried about because the
Mhm.
team that I worked with really was really great in assisting us through those more meticulous processes. So more wanting to just take the extra time to make sure that you understand the system and be a sponge throughout that implementation process because there's a lot of moving pieces, but you can learn so much. And I wish I would have focused more on that during that time rather than focusing on those meticulous tasks. And
Yeah.
then another lesson I would say that I learned along the way was to just not do it alone. I really wanted to more do everything myself because I felt like
Mhm.
I didn't want to give away that power, that control over the system because I felt like my baby. It was like I want
Yeah.
to make sure this is taken care of and want to treat it right and make sure that things go well. But having that mindset was not the right way to go about it. And once I kind of gave that up, it was a much more seamless process, and my team felt a lot more comfortable using the system by the time we were done with the implementation. So I would say those are my key lessons that I learned throughout that process in switching over to NetSuite for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. Those are good takes for sure, and people don't think about that ahead of time. In and maybe even go a little deeper on your challenges that you faced. You mentioned reporting issues, things like that. But what were some other challenges that then you came onto NetSuite with?
Yeah, I would say is just the amount that NetSuite could do compared to our prior system. I think it was
Mhm.
kind of just a challenge trying to learn. Is like I said, the different types of reporting was a big one. And then even going through our audit process from being in one system to now being in a completely new system. We switched over about midway through our fiscal year, which I would not recommend either. I would recommend doing it at the beginning of a fiscal year.
Yeah.
But it was just something that we had to learn to use a lot of brand new functions to us that our prior system didn't have. And how we overcame those, I would say, was really just having our we had one-on-one weekly meetings with my team. I should say I had one-on-one weekly meetings with each one of my team members, and we just talked about what's one success of how the implementation is going, what's one challenge, what's one thing that went well that you're glad you did in the system, and what's one thing that you did that you wish you wouldn't have done in the system that you want to learn from. So just kind of learning what everybody's errors, mistakes, challenges were, but also what went well, so that if I had another team member who maybe struggled in that area, they had a resource in that other team member to then go to. So then I'd kind of bring those all back to our team meetings to help tackle those issues. But yeah, again, it just was the overwhelming amount of new functions and features in NetSuite that we were not used to. So that was our biggest challenge for sure.
And Riley, I think just from our experience with GP and I'm sure what you endured, it's often this notion of like, once it's set, it's somewhat set in stone. We need new reports. We got to go to somebody who knows crystal reports, go to a consultant to do X, Y, and Z. With the power in your fingertips now with NetSuite being so agile, what are some of the support activities that you've focused on in working with Nuage over the course of kind of our managed services side with Stratus, now that you can do just so much more than you could with GP?
Yeah, I would say that overall comfort, kind of like I talked about within my team, was the biggest thing to me. I didn't want change is often really hard for people, and I didn't want anybody to feel like we were making a change for the worse. I wanted it to make it seem like it was for the better. So typically we would have at least 3 meetings per week once we went live in the system, to just have like a working session almost, talk through everybody's roles and responsibilities, and maybe see if somebody could pick it up a little bit better than someone else. And again, I wanted to take a team approach. I didn't want anything to feel like somebody was individual and got left behind. So those were really the biggest support activities right away for me. And then following that, it was establishing the reports, making sure that our board really did like the system as well and what it could produce for us. And also, on top of the board activities, kind of noting for myself, how much time we were saving and how much additional activity we were able to do while still saving time. And we're still learning every day, but those were kind of some of those typical just support activities that we had right away in order to ensure that we were comfortable after the first 6 months.
It definitely seems like you did things right with almost that almost continuous optimization centric mindset for the whole team going into the implementation post go live. And it seems like it's driving a lot of success with you all, just from, again, the rigidity of GP to just doing so much in NetSuite.
Yes, absolutely.
I wanted to ask, as you moved into our managed services, could you speak maybe on just some of the measurable ROIs that you've maybe identified that continue to move you all towards NetSuite and the investment you guys are putting into the NetSuite application?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've kind of talked about this a little bit already, but just to kind of summarize it, my biggest goal with any ERP system, so honestly, any system that we're going to work with on a day-to-day basis, especially an ERP system, I want to have it work for me. I want it to almost act as an employee. And prior to moving into the Stratus, it was a lot of my team and I just figuring things out and kind of working for the system. And again, we've only been on the system for about 3.5, 4 years now. So we're still pretty, or I guess it's almost 4.5 years, but we're pretty fresh on, or no, sorry, 3.5 years, excuse me. We're pretty fresh still on the system in general. And kind of talking about like the ROI and just measurable outcomes of making a change to this type of system. We, in kind of like my preliminary studies that I did prior to becoming a client of Nuage, I really wanted to focus on the amount of time that we were wasting just for the small detail activities. So what could be automized and what could be, what had to stay manual as manual entry in our organization. So again, in those preliminary studies that I did, I found that we could save anywhere from 8 to 12 hours per month of time in my department alone, just by automizing some of the activities that we were doing, whether it be memorized transactions. The board reporting process was a big one for me because we manage over 30 grant funds in one particular time. So that's a lot of reporting that has to be done, that has to be accurate and correct. So being able to just have those reports automatically be sent to me and not have to go through and meticulously create PDFs or double check the work that to make sure that it has the right date timeline for budget or year to date, whatever it might be, that was huge for me. And that just saves us a lot of time. Kind of following up on that too, our auditing process has been much more simple. Whether it be pulling, revenue and expense information for grants. There's just a lot of ways that our auditor has now been able to get access to our financial information without us having to go print stuff like we had to in Great Plains years ago. So saving a lot of time, a lot of paper, and really our auditor appreciates that as well. So.
And I was hoping, before I pass it over to Gino with a couple questions, could you share a little bit about Central Valley and how you all do things, and more importantly, how you utilize NetSuite today, just from a software stack perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a political subdivision, and most of about 65-70% of our funding comes from state and federal grants. And then we also have insurance revenue that we collect on our services in office here. So NetSuite really we use primarily for the grant reporting, the financial reporting purposes. And it's honestly been such a great help just because of how easily we can differentiate the grants, the funds, how the fund balances end up working out. Again, the system just ends up working for me instead of me working for it, which I really, really appreciate. Yeah, I would say that's been the biggest part of us using NetSuite. And now since joining Nuage, we've really taken that grants step even further, where we're actually able to put in the federal identifier number for each grant, and I can actually just give the auditor access to that report. Prior to that, I was having to actually just print Excel sheets out of NetSuite and provide them with that data. But now they have access to it, and they can just go click on that identification number and go right into the report from there. So it's been a huge help. And as far as other software goes, I've really gotten rid of a lot of Excel documents because that's how we were based prior, was a lot of reporting out of Excel and manual entries, manual calculations. So it's definitely helped in that respect.
Excellent. And you kind of answered my next question as far as how you help, how NetSuite is helping to innovate, improve service deliveries to your constituents. So you kind of touched on that already. Anything else you wanted to add there?
Not necessarily. For us, the biggest thing is the auditing and the grant reporting, and it's really it's made this process seamless. And again, if it saves us a lot of time, that makes me a lot happier. So.
No doubt, no doubt. And then maybe touch on some of the emerging trends you're seeing in the government sector related to ERP systems.
Yeah, so I am a part of the Government Finance Officers Association. I'm actually a committee member for that organization, and I was just at a conference down in Orlando last week, and I'm asking people, how's work going? People that I've met in the past, new people I'm meeting, how's work going? How's work going? And I'm not kidding. I think 90% of the people I talked to at that conference said, "Oh, we're in the middle of an ERP implementation." And I could not believe how many people were actually making a shift to a brand new software. So I think honestly, the biggest trend right now is that people are looking for something new, something fresh, and want those new features. They want everything all encompassed into one system for them. They don't want to have 5 or 6 different systems for payroll, for financial reporting, for grant management, debt management, whatever it might be, asset management even. So it's really just been who can provide the biggest package and have all of the necessary features that we need. That's definitely what I've been seeing as far as ERP systems go in the government sector.
Fascinating. Yeah, we're seeing it too, and it's the cycles are always interesting where all these groups leave that legacy application. The need for the server and the IT team managing your whole ERP application is kind of somewhat of a thing of the past, to say the least. So,
absolutely.
Well, we certainly appreciate you joining us today, and to our listeners, just want you to understand that we at Nuage also specialize in guiding businesses through the transformation, optimization of ERP solutions. So you don't have to do it alone. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and please join us next time as we continue unraveling the journeys and wisdom of exceptional business leaders. Riley, kind of give you the last word. Anything you'd like to share with the audience? Kind of anything near and dear to your heart, or kind of
No,
plugs?
I really thank you guys for having me on, and I've really been satisfied with the services that Nuage has given us so far. So thank you guys for that, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thanks again.
All right. Thank you, guys.